Hello, magic makers, and welcome back to the Metaphysical Apothecary. We are your hosts, Shannon and Megan,
Hi, everyone.
also known as the Scorpio Sisters, here to explore the mysterious, the magical, and the arcane.
I just want to let everyone know we are discussing spirit messages this morning. And as Shannon and I were doing the pre-discussion warm-up, there were definitely a large handful of cardinals and other birds that started going crazy outside my window. So that's a really interesting way to start out this discussion. So what are spirit messages? Most people who practice some sort of magic or have a spiritual practice has probably encountered spirit messages. There are things like feelings, visions, or dreams. My mother-in-law sees ladybugs. For her, that's an indication that good luck or abundance of some kind is coming her way. And the last time she saw a ladybug, that's exactly what happened. Other common ones are finding a lucky penny, seeing a particular insect, bird, etc.
Some other common ones would be a song that suddenly plays, and all of a sudden it pops on. You're like, well, where the hell did that song come from?
Yep.
Not necessarily hell, but
Not necessarily hell, but definitely from the energies that we work with.
Something's trying to catch your attention or give you acknowledgement that, hey, this is the message right here.
Yes, that you need to pay attention to this. They're bringing it into your focus. These messages can come from a lot of different places. My thought is that they come from the energies where our vibration is aligned.
Another possibility is also spirit messages from your ancestors or dearly departed.
And animals and creatures and beings that are attracted to us are something that we need to pay attention to because there's something about our energy that is pulling them into our influence. For me, it's always been cats, and it's also been spiders, but we're going to leave the spiders alone for just a minute. It's always been cats, especially when I'm going through a difficult period in my life. There is always a cat nearby, even if it's not one that we've owned. My wife and I actually had our cat Simon for 6 years from friends of ours, and he came to us under very magical circumstances and just recently passed away. And the whole time he was with us, both of us were in extremely toxic work circumstances. And when those started to clear up was when he passed on. Cats for me have always been a guardian figure where they're lending me their energy, they're lending me their strength, and they're reminding me to act and steward my behaviors and my energy as a specific way, in a very cat-like way, to get through whatever it is I'm managing at the time.
My animal would be dragons.
Yeah.
So every time I was having a hard time or getting into a place of mental, emotional, psychic maelstrom, a dragon would somehow appear in my peripheral vision, or I would see it on a movie, something on TV, a drawing, something on the internet would pop up. Dragons would manifest in that period of time for me.
Right. So you have that response of joyful, like, oh, yay. Okay, great. And I had the same response when I encounter feline energy. And when I have been in difficult situations, as I said earlier, there's always been feline energy around me, not just Simon being with us for a very particular time in our lives, but also when I was in high school, a dangerous situation that I was in. We lived in a more rural area. During that year, and only that year of my high school career, there were stray cats in my backyard constantly. There were at least 6, if not a dozen of them every time I would go out there. And they would all run because they were feral. But every single time I went out there, there were cats just wandering around, staring at me from bushes. And after the situation was cleared up, I never saw a stray cat around my house again. I work with Freya, so looking back, and I'm sure that there are many people that can relate to this, where you look back and you go, that was absolutely from this entity or energy or emanation or planet that I work with now. They've always been part of my influence or part of my energy and part of what I've worked with.
Yeah.
Your experience seems to have been more through media. You're attracting to yourself this media, the energy of the dragon through media, and also through messages directly into your consciousness. You see things out of your peripheral vision that could be coined visions. Very small, quick, but they're visions. You see that energy and you feel it there with you.
You can explain it away as layering happening in these certain objects. But if you don't look that way, which is something I learned to do, because every time I would look over, it'd be a layering effect. And it's like, well, there goes the magic. I got the message, but there goes the magic.
Yeah, exactly.
I understood there was a message there, and then I went too far and tried to chase it instead of just accepting the message and moving on.
Yes. That's been my experience as well, where it's not necessarily Alice going down the rabbit hole or this cat has a side quest for you where you need to follow it into the wilderness, but it's an indication that there's something going on in your energy that needs attention.
Yes.
I am arachnophobic. When I was a little girl, the house I grew up in had a very damp basement. So we had those little roly-poly pill bugs everywhere down there, and that attracted spiders. They had a feast, and because they were able to feast, they grew very, very large, and it was absolutely terrifying for me. But I have come to recognize that when I was little, there was a lot of spiritual activity. There was a lot of paranormal activity going on around me. So I've come to understand that we were placed in that situation where that energy could spin a web around me. I never felt in danger. Now when I see a spider, I still might feel fear, but it makes me stop and go, okay, things aren't as bad as I think that they are, because they usually come to me into my field of vision, come down from the ceiling on their little silk string there, right in my face when I'm ruminating, when I'm really deep inside my own head and in my own thoughts and can't break free and there's turmoil, and that breaks me out of the cycle and I go, okay, I'm actually very safe right now. So it's a very strange dichotomy of feelings.
Messenger, so that way you can't just overlook it and be like, oh, that's a pretty butterfly.
Exactly. Other things might come across as spirit messages.
The numbers?
Yeah.
Feels almost like I'm being reprimanded sometimes with how often I see these numbers. But it's not. It's not a negative influence. It's not someone shaking their finger at me, but it's definitely something that the universe and the energies that I work with is definitely sitting there going, hey, remember this. Just remember this. You need to remember this. I will see fours, usually 3 to 4 fours in a row at any point in time. So I woke up sometime this morning and I cannot see without my glasses. I opened up my phone because my phone had gone on to a YouTube channel / video that was just irking me and I needed to change it. And I don't need to see anything in order to do that. But for whatever reason, 4444 flashed on my screen.
Wow.
I cannot see things that are not random, blurry color miasma shapes.
Yeah.
But 44 was clear and distinct when I looked at my phone.
Wow. That is, that's definitely a spirit message. That's definitely someone wanted you to have this symbol once again. Like, here, remember this, like you said.
Yeah. And I don't know how I would ever forget that the 4 is not important.
Right. And I think that's a way that a lot of people interact with energies, where they get messages in the forms of repeated numbers, whether it's 3 or 4 of the same number in a row, or maybe it's 12-12, 10-10. Numbers on the clock are very common. I often see them in phone numbers on random signs and on the sides of trucks and things.
License plates.
Yeah, that's another place that has numbers. It's the sort of thing where it catches your attention because it's unusual. So what do the 4s indicate to you, since you see them so much?
Well, 4 in and of itself is a number of stability, foundation, security, Also a number that you need to have in order to evolve into self-sovereignty.
Okay.
If you don't have 4, you really can't get to the next number that I will talk about later that does represent empowerment and self-sovereignty to me. Then when it's 44, 44 is a master number. It's not a common master number because we don't go up to 44 in our months. So we rarely talk about any master numbers that are past 22. But 44 is a master number. It's the master number that is both the master of 4 energy, which again is stability, foundation, security, but it's also the master number that evokes 8, which is empowerment and sovereignty and infinity. And when it's 3 4s, that's a little bit more common than just seeing 44, because 4 o'clock in the morning at 44 minutes, you have 4 degrees, 44 minutes of any particular zodiac sign.
Yeah, and that's another one that you could see in a phone number or on a license plate or in one of those places as well.
Yeah, it's not common to see 44, 44.
Right.
You have 4 times, so stability and security and laying foundations, making sure your foundations are good or that you have foundations and you don't need to worry about them. You have the 4 walls, the 4 corners, the 4 pieces of the puzzle that you need. It is the accumulation, if you will, of the energy of 4.
Yeah, not only the number itself, but how it appears and how many times it appears also means something.
Yeah, for me, the more often or the more 4s there are, the more apparent that energy is in my life.
Okay, so that's an indication to you that you are secure or you need to keep seeking it or both?
A little bit of both, but you don't have to worry about it.
All of the spirit messages that we have talked about so far, basically, at its core, we're being told over and over again, you're okay, you're safe.
There are messages from external sources that are not about you are safe or reaffirming that you're on the right path. For instance, before pandemic 2020 happened, I worked in the city at an office building, and randomly I was talking to Megan on the phone and I suddenly got vertigo. I don't suffer vertigo normally. I do not have a explanation. I was on the ground and I felt vertigo in my own height. Ow. And I had to stop moving and get out of the city because it wasn't going away.
So you were basically being ushered out of the city at that point.
Yes. As soon as I left, a helicopter had crashed into the building that was across the street from my office building.
Oh my, that's crazy.
I shut down all messages, all spiritual information. When I'm in the city, I get too overwhelmed. That was definitely the energies that I work with. In particular, it was Kalimu, who was just like, you're not listening to me, and I gave you vertigo. Right. You were not listening. The message was get out of the city. You do not need to be there right now. It's not necessarily that I was in danger because it wasn't my building that was hit, but by staying there any longer, all the transportation out of that part of the city had kaputs.
Right. So you needed to leave before you were basically trapped there for who knows how long.
Yeah, I needed to leave before I got stuck.
So that was a time when you were made even more uncomfortable by a deity who was looking out for your safety and your personal well-being. And that is definitely something that occurs, but it's okay if our spirit messages are more lightweight.
Spirit messages will more likely be lightweight because how often are you going to get into a situation that is detrimental to your well-being?
I hope not very often.
I hope not very often either.
Not all of us are always going to need to have someone like Kali Ma or Freya sending you an army of felines to protect you and lend you their strength and their energy and saying, I am here, I am with you, I'm guiding you. But the little things are like beads on a string sometimes, and they can add up to a large thing too.
So sometimes the spirit messages that you may be getting are not from external sources.
Exactly. They may be coming from within us, within our energy, within our spirit. And that's actually a wonderful thing because it means that we are open enough to source, to cosmos, to spirit energy that we're actually able to warn ourselves.
We need to communicate with ourselves. The vagus nerve. Vagus.
Yes. The vagus nerve is an incredible piece of the human body. I feel like it is responsible for a lot of the messages that we sort of receive from the inside out. Things that we might see from the inside out are feelings in the gut, feelings in the heart, responses of our physical body to a particular environment or a particular person. And the vagus nerve, it's like a highway through the body. So it runs from the brainstem down into the body, connects at very important points in the heart and in our gut, and then it kind of spreads out and creates a message matrix throughout our whole physical body. So we have, I think it's 40,000 neurons in our heart, and we also have a number of neurons in the lining of our stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Those neurons are able to record information. They're able to gather and remember information. They remember sensations. They remember images. And when we encounter similar events that made our energy either feel good or feel on edge, our heart and our gut remember that and they respond accordingly. So the way that they send messages back up to the brain is through the vagus nerve. And it's very interesting because the vagus nerve conducts our rest and digest, our parasympathetic nervous system, but it also sends extremely important messages throughout our organ systems. There have been studies that have been conducted that show the neurons in the heart actually send more messages to the brain than happen the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you encounter something that either feels good or feels off, your heart and your gut are sending information into the brain to allow that to come into your consciousness and allow you to feel that and react to it appropriately. So that's why our heart speeds up when we see something scary, but it also speeds up when we see someone we love. It's just that the sensation that's associated with that is very, very different. It's why our gut, we get nauseated when we're in a situation that is unpleasant in some way. And then our brain goes, this isn't good. I need to leave this situation.
Or this is good and I need to get more of this.
Exactly.
The Heart Math Institute did an experiment and they were able to show that the human heart is able to predict within a few seconds whether or not an image that's going to be shown is scary or not. So your heart rate picking up before you can discern if there's something wrong or something lovely that's coming at you is really important to remember as well, because your heart is telling you, hey, something's coming. And if you can listen to your body and understand what your body's telling you, you'll be able to discern whether or not it is a scary, frightening, and deconstructive interference, or is it a constructive, comforting, loving energy source.
Exactly. Everything has a vibration and a frequency. So the image has a vibration that's actually hitting the subtle body. It's hitting our bioelectric field before we even see it with our eyes. So they're communicating, the energies are communicating with each other.
Yeah, before we can see it. It's communicating well before we can perceive and see it.
Exactly. So there are senses beyond our physical body that we can listen to by how they affect our physical body.
That's all we have on our topic for today. Thank you so much for listening in, and we hope you'll join us again soon. In the meantime, you can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest for more witchy wisdom, both here and on our blog. And you can also check out our original art on Society 6 for sacred decor and more. Thanks again for joining us. Go make some magic and live your best life.
Bye.